Hello, I'm Rico Cavella. Welcome to this episode of Fearless Aging, where in every episode, my guests and we strive to offer you proven tips and strategies that you can implement immediately to greatly improve your overall health and well-being. So we're here to inspire you and empower you to become your best self so you can go out and make a bigger positive impact in the world. Now, before I introduce today's episode and our expert guest, I have a question for you. If you've been wondering how well you are aging, I have the solution. You can go to my main website, agelesslivinglifestyle.com, take our free aging assessment. And if you don't like the results, you can book a free call with me and we'll discuss what challenges you're having. And I'll give you some quick and easy tips to get you going on the right track. So, the title of today's episode, we're going to talk about the Morry method. It's a proprietary entrainment technology which evokes beneficial brainwave states. So, this is going to be a really interesting one. And you want to stay to the end because our guest has a free gift for you that's going to be really beneficial for you. So, our expert guest is Morry Zelcovitch. He's the creator of the Morry method. He first noticed the effects that sounds and tones had on his own mental state well over 20 years ago. This led to to decades a decades long journey deep in the study of brainwave entrainment. So he wasn't satisfied with the minor results he experienced, so he sought out the world's foremost brain entrainment expert, and after extensive study and training, became one of the few certified brainwave entrainment engineers in the world. From that impressive starting point and with ongoing study and research, he has developed proprietary technology and techniques which he has named the Morry method. So, Morry Zelcovitch, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Rico. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story and a little bit about what I do.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we're going to do. So yeah, let's do start off just real briefly again. Let's tell our audience, how you got interested in this and and how all this came about.
Sure. So, in a nutshell, I spent the first 40 years of my life wanting to be dead. I tried to kill myself probably
Wow,
6 times that I can remember. Thing
wow,
is, if you really want to die, you probably would succeed after one try. And it took me six to figure out that if I can't find a way to die, I have to find a way to live.
wow.
So after trying a million different things, quite literally, it felt like a million. I'm sure it wasn't a million, but after trying a million different things over many, many years, I found this thing called brainwave entrainment, and it seemed to tick all the boxes. It dotted the I's and crossed the T's. The only problem is when I tried it, it didn't work. So I decided that I had to reinvent the wheel. And when I reinvented the wheel, reinvented entrainment, it worked. And now I offer my techniques and technologies to people all over the world to help them with things like PTSD, stress, anxiety disorders, self confidence, self esteem, peak performance. I even have doctors and clinicians using it to help people with Alzheimer's disease.
Wow, that's so good. That's so good. That's an amazing story, and I know you have a lots of different ones that treat different things. So we'll get into talking about that. But first, for our audience, tell us what exactly is brainwave entrainment.
Sure. So, brainwave entrainment is an easy way to kind of describe it is most people like music, or at least some type of music.
Hmm.
And when they listen to music, they'll find themselves bopping their head, tapping their toes almost automatically. They
Hmm.
don't think about doing it, it just happens. That is a form of entrainment. Now, brainwave entrainment is using the audio pulses that I present the brain with in the form of shh and ba 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 to inspire your neurons, which are your brain cells, to actually follow that frequency. So what happens is your neurons pulse. They don't pulse like the heart pulses, but they pulse more like if you were at a light switch and you were flicking it on and off a bunch of times. So depending on how many times you switch it on and off per second, that denotes the state that cell is in. So most people have heard of alpha, beta, theta, delta, gamma. These are simply denotations that tell you how many times in a second this cell is pulsing this electric signal. And why that's important is depending on how many times it pulses and the region of the brain that it's pulsing in, that releases chemistry, things like neurotransmitters, endorphins, and hormones. And it's the combination of this chemistry that allows you to experience what you experience the way you experience it. happy, sad, whatever, is a translation of this chemical process. And what you've produced is what you feel.
So entrainment means to to be connected to, or
To
what
follow.
to follow.
It's really following. So if this is a neuron pulsing away doing what it's doing, and this is the signal I'm giving it,
Hmm.
eventually after a few minutes they'll start matching up. So I can actually convince your neuron to pulse in a certain way, which convinces it to create certain chemistry, which allows for you to achieve beneficial states.
So sound therapy has been around for a really long time, and it's gotten really popular. So how do you think originally, did someone determine that sound has such a profound effect on our moods, our emotions, our brain, and all those things?
That's a really good question. I think maybe it would be the same way, I mean, they've been doing drumming in cultures for thousands of years.
Hmm.
For me, it was sitting around a campfire alone one night and always having time pass so slowly. And for the first time in my life, it passed quickly. And I made the connection that it was between the popping of the wood, the logs, little air pockets in logs go pop, 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 pop,
Hmm.
pop, pop.
Hmm.
I made that connection that I felt differently. And time actually went fast for the first time in my entire life. And when I got back from the camping trip, I started doing research. So my suspicion is people came across it by accident. They just, one day, people were doing things and they noticed. Like most important scientific discoveries, usually they're by accident.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we do know, how sound and like music definitely affects our moods. So it definitely
yeah.
has an effect on us. And yeah, that is so interesting. Well, tell us a little bit about binaural beats, and how was that discovered, and how do they affect our brain?
Well, I actually don't use binaural
Oh, you
beats.
don't use binaural beats?
No,
No.
binaural beats are actually relatively ineffective. And in my
Oh,
opinion, they're based on flawed science.
oh.
So they do have a purpose. They can help diagnose brain anomalies. So if the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of your brain are not communicating properly, a binaural beat will not be heard. So here's what a binaural beat is. It's kind of like a tone in this ear, and a tone in this ear.
Mhm.
And you could
Yeah.
hear there was a slight difference in the tones. So if this tone is 110 hertz and this tone is 105 hertz, you'll hear a ghost image in your mind, in your
Mhm.
brain. It'll
Mhm.
sound like bop, 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 5 times a second. The problem with the binaural beat when it comes to brainwave entrainment is its signal strength is very weak. It's kind of like that, almost like a subtle wave. I use isochronic tones and monaural beats, and those are more like this. So that's a much stronger effect on the brain and on the psyche.
Oh, that's
So
very
binaural beats didn't help me. When I was doing my research in the beginning, trying to find something to help me, I came across binaural beats because they're the most popular and they've been
yeah,
around the longest.
yeah.
But in truth, they're relatively ineffective for what I wanted. And I had to find other ways to do that. I'm actually in the process now of developing my own beats as well.
Oh, really interesting. Well, I'm gonna tell us a little bit about how was it, or how did you also discover, what different sounds and beats affect different parts of the brain?
So when I was on the camping trip and I noticed because I was depressed a lot, I went from being depressed to super depressed. And then when things lightened up, I was just simply depressed. So when I was around the campfire, time passed really fast for the first time in my life. I realized something was going on. I went to libraries because I call it the paper internet because they didn't have the internet back then.
Mhm, mhm.
And I studied neurological journals. I just had to understand why these perceived sounds had such a weird effect on me. So I studied science journals, neurology reports, and research papers, and perception and psychology. And it turned out there's a lot of studies on sound. So in reality, sound doesn't exist. So you think you're hearing me. And if anyone's out there watching this or listening to this, they think they're hearing me as well, but they're really not. What's actually happening is, and if you put your hand on your neck when you're talking, because your neck's a
Yeah,
good place,
yeah,
you'll
yeah.
notice it vibrates.
Mhm.
That's what sound really is. It's actually vibration. And
Vibration.
if there is a functional system that can receive that vibration and translate it into what we think is sound, it does. So people The vibration goes in through the ear, the cochlea, all the different bones start vibrating. They send a neurological signal into the brain, and then various regions of the brain work together to create what we call sound. So in reality, sound doesn't exist. It's all vibration and then interpretation. If everybody watching this right now were to have the ability of putting an SD card in their ear and recording what they hear, quote unquote, what they hear, and then we listen to each recording, my voice would sound slightly different in each recording. And that
Mhm.
denotes the difference between how everybody's brain recreates or converts the vibration into what we perceive as sound. That's why when you listen to my brainwave entrainment, if you listen with little earbuds, it doesn't matter if they're Sony or if they're Samsung or if they're Apple or if they're Harman Kardon, like, the best quality earbuds in the world, don't really work for entrainment because it's not your perception of the ba 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 that's creating the entrainment. It's the actual vibration. It's the power of that vibrational frequency. And little earbuds just don't have enough of a surface area to
Uh,
create enough vibration to create a true entrainment
so
process.
it's better to use headphones like these, right?
Sure. As a
Yeah,
matter of fact, you can spend $5, $6, $7,000 on earphones, or you could
yeah,
pay $10 for these, and these will do a better job.
yeah. Mine only cost maybe like 125, and they seem to work really fine.
Well, if yours have noise canceling, you would want to turn the noise canceling off,
Oh,
because noise canceling disturbs the embedded frequencies that I
uh,
put in. Noise canceling cuts off certain frequencies. That's how
okay.
electronic noise canceling works. If your earphones are noise canceling because they have foam
Oh,
that
yeah.
insulates you against
Uh,
external noise,
okay,
that's
yeah.
okay. But using electronic noise canceling is a no-no.
Okay. So still, I'm just still curious. How did they discover what tones and vibrations affect different parts of the
Right.
brain?
So there's different resonance factors. So different parts of the brain are really affected by the electronic signals caused by these vibrations. So
Mhm.
they all come in through the ear, and those would be the auditory nerve would be the first thing that's being affected, and then it would transmit those different vibrations that different regions of the brain are sensitive to those areas of the brain, and then those areas of the brain would then start following the frequency, like I was showing you before, beating in unison, and
Uh,
then creating the appropriate chemistry that's associated. When we do studies, we can do studies with people who are, there's something called an EEG, electroencephalogram, and you've seen people with wearing the head things and they have all these little probes that are
mhm.
attached. Those really only tell you the surface area of the brain, but it's inferred that the rest of the brain is doing similar things. The thing is that when we do studies, EEG studies of people who are very confident, who are upset, who are going through trauma, physical trauma, mental trauma, all these different things, we can notice commonalities between various types of people,
Mm,
and we can register that brain activity.
wow.
And then we kind of know this particular frequency is beneficial for this in general. This one's for this in general. This one's for
Yeah.
this in general. So what I do is I follow the research as well as different research I've done, and I compile systems that are generally able to help people with things like, say, self-confidence, with peak performance in various areas, uh, sleep. I have a recording called Good Night Sleep Well that I listen to every night. I used to act out. I used to scream. I used to like punch the air.
Mhm.
And what I do now is sleep just because I
Yeah.
listen to a recording. It's
Wow.
really quite amazing. And remember, I had 40 years of depression that this brought me out of.
Wow, that's amazing. That's so good. What a good story.
Yeah.
This is really fascinating. How all the things now, how technology has advanced so much that we can actually determine, like you say, a state of depression or a state of something else has a different frequency, a different vibration, and
Well,
that's
again, I don't want to be misconstrued that I'm making any kind of medical claims,
okay.
but I work based on what can help to do
Yeah,
something.
yeah. What
So
actually
in
helps?
my experience, I have noticed that Dr. Dale Bredesen, who is a neurologist, and he does a lot of research into Alzheimer's, and he's come up with a program called Recode. If anybody out there has Alzheimer's disease of any stage, or they know someone who does, you might want to pick up his book, The End of Alzheimer's,
Great. Yeah.
because He actually mentions some of my recordings 3 times in his book, and he uses them and refers people to my recordings all the time, because it can help them with things like sleep. So we have different brainwave activity that leads us into different conditions and different modalities, if you will,
Mhm.
like sleep, like excitement, like arousal. All these different things are related to brainwave activity. And because of something called the frequency following response, which is what I was talking about with music, you're kind of bopping without thinking of doing it. This is an
Mhm.
autonomic system that just kicks in. Because of that, when you're exposed to these beats that I've created, which are perfectly formed, perfectly spaced, then the brain goes, I like this beat. I'm going to follow it. It's not something you have to learn or study. It's something that just
Mhm.
happens automatically. And when
Exactly.
you get a dominant number of these neurons behaving in that way, you get a dominant, you know, experience, which is brought on by the neural chemistry that's produced. And that changes how we think. It changes how we perceive what's going on around us. It changes everything.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, thank you for that information. Okay, we're going to take a short. I got a short message for you, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the results you've gotten with your clients, and then I know you have a lot of different
Yeah.
products on your different entrainments that can help all different things. So we'll talk about that.
Thank you.
All right.
Now, in just 17 minutes, you can get and stay fit and look and feel your best for life. This will be a life-changing and life-saving experience for you. Yes, it's true. Scientific studies have shown the Fast Fit 17 system is the fastest way to achieve maximum results in the shortest amount of time. This is a true fitness breakthrough. This system was developed particularly for busy people over 40 who know they need and want to get into better shape and have more energy, but feel they don't have the time. Now, time is no longer an issue. We want everyone to take advantage of this fitness breakthrough. So, for a limited time, you can get the entire program for only $17. So don't miss out. Order now at fastfit17.com.
All right, we are back with Morry Zelcovitch, brain trained brain entrainment expert. And so Morry, tell us about. First of all, I'd like to know what different uh, mental health issues people are having. Have you got the best results with?
So again, I don't like to make medical claims because I'm not allowed to legally,
Hmm.
but I've had people give me testimonials that I can talk about.
Yeah,
So I've had people who have used it with autism, with ADHD, with stress, with anxiety. I have a system that I've been giving to veterans who are suffering from PTSD, and they're reporting to me that they're feeling much better.
that's great.
Um, really anything. You see, for me, it can help with everything. For me, the brain is the central processing unit of your life.
Hmm.
In other words, I could be slapped in my face and my face could fly off to the side and fly back over here and not even know that any of that happened, even though my eyes were open and I saw everything outside my field of vision there. Because if my brain doesn't create chemistry to acknowledge these events, I don't know what happened. That's just how it works. So
Hmm.
for me, if I can help the brain to become stronger, more efficient, then everything becomes stronger and more efficient. And that's just my opinion. So, there was a beautiful ad there for exercise. Everyone exercises their body, but very few people exercise their mind. That's
Yeah.
really what I'm about. I'm about picking up the slack for the people who are not exercising their mind. One thing I should point out is that physical exercise helps memory. There are
Yeah.
research
Yeah.
studies that show that. So physical exercise helps. I have a friend of mine who was diagnosed with, I think it was stage 3 or 4 lung cancer, and he's in his 70s. So the outlook wasn't very good, but he said, screw that. He actually exercised and he was walking and things. And the doctors were saying, how can you even, I can't believe you're not like just lying in bed. Where are you getting the energy? He said, look, I've got some good lung cells, right? And the doctor said, yes. He said, well, those cells need to be healthy. Those cells need to be
Yeah.
helped.
Yeah. Smart.
So it turns out that his half an hour of exercise, he went for walks and stuff every day, helped. And now I'm not saying that's the reason why, but it turned out I spoke with him yesterday and he is clear.
That's so
The
good.
last scan he had showed nothing. So obviously something he did. Now I'm sure exercise was just a part of it. I'm
Mhm.
sure the doctor's medications and the doctor's help, it's everything together, right? Probably made a
Mm.
big difference for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
So
went to see an Ayurvedic doctor and all these other things. But the bottom line is the more you take responsibility for your own physical health or mental health, the more likely you are to have a better outcome. And there is evidence and there is research to show that as well.
well said. Absolutely right. So what you're offering is inner size.
Yeah,
Exercises on the
okay. I
physical.
like that.
You're doing inner size. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've only got about 4 or 5 minutes left here, so let's talk about. Well, first of all, I want to talk about the free product that people can get. It's called Digital Coffee. It's on your web.
Yeah.
Is that on your website?
Yeah.
TheMorrymethod.com?
That's available there, but it's easier to get if you go to mindtrainer-pro.com.
Okay, well, we'll put all that information in the show
Yeah, if
description.
you put a link in there, Rico, it'll be easier for them.
Okay,
So.
we'll talk about. I know you have several different products that are made for specific things. So talk a little bit about some of those.
So I have peak performance systems for things like for athletes, for business
I know.
people, for salespeople,
Mm.
for all kinds of different things, even pickleball.
Oh, great!
Believe it or not,
Wow!
I had someone ask me if I could create a system for pickleball.
Wow!
I also have systems for self confidence.
Wow!
I have a technology called triliminals. I used to have a club where I created almost 200 recordings on different topics. And if you combine them into different combinations, you could literally create a system for anything.
Wow! That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you have several. There's one called Quantum. You have all. Talk about some more of the different ones.
So quantum mind method is
Yeah.
a generalized self-help system. It involves a bunch of different of my technologies to help alter. It's more of a self-help, self-improvement style product. It's not as focused as the others, although it does has focused areas that have to do with things like stress and anxiety and depression and sleep issues and things like that. But again, the real star of my work is your brain.
Hmm.
Just direct it into the right areas. That's all. And keep in mind that when I speak, I'm talking about helping you to do things. It's really you doing the things. And I'm not making any medical claims. None of this is to be taken or used instead of doctor's advice or anything like that at all. But the thing is, I have over 40 products currently right now. And as far as the peak performance stuff, I have probably 12 things that I've developed and I can create them for anything. I also do custom systems.
Oh,
So
that's very cool.
thank you. There's a lot of people who say, you can't be happy all the time. And to those people, I say,
Yeah. Why?
that's what I say to them.
Yeah.
That
Why
is
not?
wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly. Happiness feels good, right? And when
Yeah.
you're sad or angry, it doesn't feel good. There's a reason for that. Nature has given us what I call the red light on the dashboard of our lives. And when you feel good, it means you're doing and thinking the right things. And when you feel bad, it means you're doing and thinking the wrong things. It's that simple. So if you feel poorly, it's not because you're supposed to. It's because it's telling you you're doing and or thinking the wrong thing for you. Always go for what feels good because
Exactly.
that is what you are supposed to do. You are supposed to feel good all the time. That's why feeling good actually feels good. At least that's how I interpret these things.
Yeah. That's a great message. Yeah, whenever we're feeling good and we're happy, that means we're in love. But when we're not feeling good or complaining, then that means we're in fear emotion. And so you just got to be aware of all those things. But all your
Sure, and
products
there's
can be,
signals.
yeah,
There's
absolutely,
nothing to be complaining about. It's even good to feel bad because it's telling you, it's warning you, "Hey, you're on the wrong track, Maury. Change gears. You'll be okay, but pay attention and change gears. Don't think you're supposed to feel bad. You're never supposed to feel bad. Look, if you break your leg, it hurts. There's a reason why it hurts, so you do something about it. That's why the pain is there. Imagine if you broke your leg and you didn't feel pain.
Yeah.
Maybe you would never get it taken care of, and
We
then
never
you'd have all
get
kinds of
taken.
problems.
Well,
Yeah.
Morry, we're just about out of time. I really thank you for your work and for the great work you're doing. And thank you so much for being here. And I like to always end my shows with Einstein saying that knowledge without action is useless. So we always give you some really good information and some wisdom and some knowledge, but you got to take action on it. So I highly recommend you go to Morry's website and get your free product and check out all he has to offer. And I'm sure you'll be really happy with the results. So once again, Morry, thanks so much for being here. That was really great.
Thank you very much, and I'm gonna finish with a little Einstein of my own here.
All right.
Einstein said something very good that stuck with me. It was, "There is no such thing as genius, only people who see things others don't see." And I'm sure you see things others don't see too. So express your
Yeah.
genius and share it.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. All right. Thanks for everybody very much for being here.